Coming to you from a cozy little condo high atop Old Fourth Ward, Atlanta. Welcome to The Ron Show on America One Radio. Here's your host, Ron Roberts.
And I'm going to do something that I would have guessed that none of the other shows on America One Radio, Progressive Voices via TuneIn, are going to do today. I'm just not going to really dive into the joint session of Congress, the speech that President Donald Trump gave, at least not initially. I don't know. I just don't see much point in it. It's not a priority for me, I guess. And the word priority is ironic because I spent a good deal of time yesterday focusing on the viral video clip that has circulated throughout Metro Atlanta and in Democratic circles in the state of Georgia with State Senator Elena Paren conversing with Lena Cutler, I think I'm saying that right, from Decatur, who has a trans child who scored a one-on-one conversation with her state senator, Senator Elena Paren. Senator Paren sat through more than 20 minutes of this conversation, and a lot of it was really hostile. Let me replay for you, first of all, the viral parts, the parts that made the rounds, the parts that caught a lot of people, myself included, off guard, finding me to question, like a lot of people, whether or not Senator Paren was backtracking on her support for trans rights.
Is not ready for, despite me voting no against all these things all the time, transgender kids in sports. They are firmly across the political spectrum opposed to it. Prisoners are going to be even farther down the list. And if your party can get no public support, it will always lose. And I would like to see Democrats win so that we can stop all these bills that bully transgender people and instead treat them with the humanity and dignity and equality they deserve. But
so until you have gotten...
Can I please finish my sentence?
No, because I just want to... I have a question.
When Republicans can weaponize this issue successfully against Democrats all over the country so that we cannot win in districts where we must win in order to have a majority to stop their bullying.
Okay.
This issue has cost Democrats a ton of votes in areas we simply
I'm sorry, could you
ever be able to get a majority.
Sorry, can you just explain which issue exactly is it?
The sports issue in particular.
So transgender people
and the prisoners, the sports and the prisoners, yes.
So what is it about transgender prisoners that you don't feel?
It's not me, ma'am. It's where the public is, which is why I brought up the example about Barack Obama in 2008 to just make the point that if the public does not agree with you and you are an elected official, no matter how much we scream into the air, people aren't going to automatically believe our views and our approach. And if they will not believe our views and our approach, doubling down on it constantly is not going to help. We have to demonstrate something that we are a party that is worried about their concerns. And the unfortunate reality is, due to a couple factors, one of them being the weaponization by Republicans, clearly, but also some missteps by Democratic elected officials and activist groups, the public believes that Democrats writ large top priority is protecting transgender.
Is that not a top priority?
It is, but if you want to win elections, you need to have them think that the economy and helping families like them make ends meet is the top priority, because that is always the top priority for every single, every group.
So, in full transparency, I'm the guy yesterday who, after listening to just that viral clip and speaking with Claire Schexnayder, who is an advocate, also a mother of a trans child who has since moved away to go to college somewhere where I believe she said her son feels safer than here in the state of Georgia. I'm the guy who said to Democrats, State Senator Elena Paren among them, they don't have to take one on the chin, take one for the team, because the Democratic Party hasn't done a good enough job at making that messaging loud and clear. So why are you asking them to make that sacrifice, to take that knee? you shouldn't. And I stand by that. The one time Senator Elena Paren deviated from voting for trans rights would be SB 185. And I'm reading from the Decatur-ish article that covered this whole brouhaha. SB 185 amends an existing state law that outlines the rules and regulations of the State Board of Corrections. The bill would prohibit state funds or resources from being used for sex reassignment surgeries and hormone replacement therapies for state inmates. The hormone replacement therapies part, it's my understanding State Senator Elena Paren disagrees with her Republican colleagues on. It also prohibits state funds to be used for cosmetic procedures or prosthetics intended to alter the appearance of primary or secondary sexual characteristics. The Senate voted 37-15 to pass the bill, Paren voting yes with Republicans on that, saying, I was hoping that my amendment to allow inmates to stay on gender-affirming hormones if they were already taking them upon their sentencing would be adopted. Unfortunately, the Republican majority voted it down because the vast majority of my constituents do not support taxpayer-funded surgeries for convicted inmates. I voted yes, although I decry the section banning continued hormone therapy. Now, we can argue the legalities of this, whether or not we consider that life-saving care. Listen, there are reams and heaps of evidence that discuss the necessity of gender-affirming care, what is necessary gender-affirming care, what isn't necessary gender-affirming care for an adult who is imprisoned who has not started their hormone treatments or maybe has started their hormone treatments prior to being convicted or incarcerated. Granted, that is fodder for discussion. State Senator Elena Paren believes that those who already began hormone treatments before being imprisoned should be able to continue receiving those treatments. She tried to get that amendment added to the bill. The amendment did not pass. She decided that on the whole, she believes, and I hate to tell activists this, but there are a lot of folks, even Democrats, who believe that cosmetic surgeries for gender reassignment for the imprisoned just isn't something that taxpayers should have to foot the bill for. It is why, by the way, you had to endure a speech to the joint session of Congress from a president checks notes Donald Trump. Tens of millions of dollars of advertising went to berate former Vice President Kamala Harris for her support of taxpayer-funded gender reassignment surgeries for those imprisoned. Now, the attack ads didn't mention that, oh, by the way, President Donald Trump under his first term had to allow it too because of a little thing called the Constitution. And State Senator Elena Paren, a lawyer, also knows that the Constitution is out there existing somewhere, we assume, and that if this law were to, or bill to become law, gets challenged in courts, it's likely going to face a lot of scrutiny and may wind up being stricken. That being said, she believes that the overwhelming majority of her constituents, yes, even on the left, believe that taxpayer dollars for what are deemed cosmetic procedures is a no-go. The problem that I'm going to reveal to you about this entire conversation that Lena Cutler had with State Senator Elena Paren is that Ms. Cutler went beyond the pale. Even if I were and listen, I am about as staunch a supporter of the trans community as I can be. I'm a 51-year-old gay man. I have walked parades and rallies, and I have mixed and mingled. I defend allowing children to just freaking play. The IOC, the NCAA, they all have science that they utilize, they lean on heavily to make sure that competitive balance is met. Are there outrageous examples somewhere out there in the universe where you can go, oh, well, that is ridiculous, this shouldn't? Yes, there are ridiculous scenarios where people don't use common sense or let science dictate. And we have to learn our way, fumble our way through this awkwardly. We just do. But I do believe that there are zealots on the right who have been using the opportunity to demonize our trans community to score cheap political points instead of trying to find ways of inclusivity. These right-wing blowhards race to the State House to find ways to exclude kids from participation instead of finding ways to make sure that they're included in some way, shape, form, or fashion in participation. I say this several times now. I play in a softball league. It's an LGBTQIA plus softball league. On one of the teams that I'm coaching, we have a brand new to softball player, a trans female, and we play male, female, non-binary, trans female. Trans male. It doesn't matter. We all play together. We figured it out. We figured it out. And we argue about how we figured it out still all the time. We have ratings and we tweak. We do, but we figured it out. I would love to see us figure it out for kids too. You're not going to find many more staunch allies in the trans community than the voice you're listening to right now. Or that of State Senator Elena Paren, who I berated a little bit yesterday, and part and parcel more to the Democratic Party because the party has fumbled this issue. They don't know what to say. They're caught flat-footed. And in all honesty, Republicans are the one that brought this to the forefront in 2024 as a cudgel. Democrats, honestly, haven't been vocal enough for the trans community. And it showed because they got caught flat-footed, not having an answer for that attack ad, Kamala Harris, for weeks or at all. She didn't have an answer for it. The simple answer was, of course it sounds a little outrageous to have taxpayers fund cosmetic procedures. Guess what? The Constitution protects it, and Donald Trump, when he was president, had to allow it too. That would have been the simple response. It just took me 4 seconds. Anyway, I'm falling by the wayside here because I spent a good deal of time kind of putting the screws to State Senator Elena Paren. And while I think her response was a little fumbly, I think a lot of it has more to do with the fact that the Democratic Party, and she's kind of saying it in an awkward way, the Democratic Party has done a poor job at having a response. And she's a member of the Democratic Party, and her response wasn't the most graceful either. But I want you to listen to the entire first 12, 13 minutes of this conversation between her constituent, Lena Cutler of Decatur, and State Senator Paren, and tell me if you'd have even stayed on the call as long as State Senator Elena Paren did. Because she was yelled over, cursed at, admonished, talked down to in ways that most folks would have hung up the call. That's next. This is The Ron Show, America One Radio and Progressive Voices via TuneIn. You can call The Ron Show if you'd like to leave a comment or even text 404-919-2725. I did actually yesterday reach out to State Senator Elena Paren, invited her onto the show. Said, Senator, wanted to give you the opportunity to speak on my show to the airing of grievances by trans activists after recent comments shared on social media. You're always welcome here. I didn't hide that she's been on this show twice before and that I'm kind of a fan of hers. I've said, in fact, a couple times after having her on the show, the last time, matter of fact, I said after the fact, I could see her in a gubernatorial candidacy sort of scenario. And I think that's probably what she's considering in some way, shape, form, or fashion. She did respond last night. It was around 9:30 at night, and essentially just said she'd love to come on the show. She just doesn't want to talk about this issue because she just doesn't feel like she's making any headway with the activist when it comes to understanding her point of view on that. And so that's fair. And maybe we'll have her on at some point in time. There's plenty more to discuss that's going on as crossover day approaches in the Georgia General Assembly. I want you to take a little bit of a dose of what State Senator Paren did when having this conversation with her constituent, mother of a trans child, Lena Kettler from Decatur. Take a listen to how this conversation went from cordial to, wait, what? within minutes.
Well, we appreciate you taking time to meet with us today.
Absolutely. I'm excited to.
Alex is home and asked if she could meet and join the meeting as well.
Fell on the concrete.
Hey, Alex.
Hi.
Skip ahead past the pleasantries.
Just before this call, I was getting an update on SB 185 and SB 30 that are coming to the House for a vote, or
Yeah,
to the floor on a vote on Monday.
And puberty blockers.
Yes.
And we have that on Monday.
Yes. So I'm hearing conflicting information about how you're planning on voting for those bills.
Let me look about.
So one of SB 30 is puberty blockers.
SB 30 is puberty blockers, and 185 may be transgender prisoners.
Yes, incarcerated people who are transgender, yes.
Yes. So I'm going to vote for the prisoner one, although I'm going to have an amendment or two, and I'm going to vote against the puberty blockers one.
So could you tell me more about why you're voting to violate the constitutional rights of incarcerated prisoners?
I actually don't believe that it violates their rights.
How does denying gender affirming care to transgender people not violate their rights?
Well, that one of my amendments actually will deal with that, because I would like them to be able, obviously, to stay on any gender affirming hormones that they're already on.
Then why not vote no for the bill entirely?
Because they are making it all about surgeries and
Yep.
Well, that's gender affirming care. Why do incarcerated people not deserve gender affirming care?
It's not that they don't deserve it; it's that it is
Not a political reality for the vast majority, unfortunately.
not at all supported by the public.
Thank you.
That doesn't appear to be the case. Also, are you going to include in your amendment that incarcerated people don't have the right to have cancerous tumors removed?
What?
I would certainly not.
Would you deny?
I'm not. Let's be very clear that this is not my bill. This is not my idea. This is not what I would do if I were in charge.
Yeah, but it's how you're voting.
Because I'm the chair of our caucus, and I would like to get us to a majority at some point. Yes, and it is
So
only.
So is your stance, Senator Paren, that you are willing to deny transgender people health care and basic human rights in order to get votes?
No, of course not. But it is my position. I've had to remind a lot of people about that recently, that likely Barack Obama was smart in saying that he believed marriage was between a man and a woman in 2008, because he wouldn't have won the election without it. And then it was his Supreme Court and his presidency where progress was able to be made.
So you do feel like voting against transgender rights will win you votes?
It's not me.
No. I don't want to talk about. I'm not interested in the not me thing. We are actually. I'm directly asking you to tell me as your constituent and to tell my 9-year-old trans child whether or not you are willing to vote for her rights.
Is she in prison?
Of course, but that's not what that bill is talking about.
So if she were to get arrested, you no longer think she has a right to health care?
Actually, I believe the bill, just so we're very clear, is only for people that have actually been sentenced and are in prison.
Okay. So if she got arrested and was sentenced, then you would feel that she doesn't have a right to health care.
No, I think that's a very unfair characterization. I don't really want to get into the specifics, because you're essentially just trying to move away from the overwhelming point I'm trying to make, which is that the public is not there. They are not there on a number of these things as much as I wish they were. And unfortunately, the bullying of certain activists over the last 5 years, I feel like has caused a huge backlash against people like Alex. And I feel like it's literally directly contributed to the massive spate of bills we are seeing now. Because the public...
So what you're saying is that trans people fighting for their rights has made it difficult for you as a cis woman to do your job.
No, it has nothing to do with me. It has to do with the backlash from the public.
Can you explain how it doesn't have anything to do with you?
And the fact that the Republicans have been able to take advantage of a backlash generated by the public.
Okay, she has a question.
Hey, Alex.
I just wanted to say, objection. That's not how things work. You have your own opinion.
I wish that was true, Alex.
I mean, the 9-year-old seems to have a better understanding of what a representative is supposed to do.
Okay, insulting.
Yes. So in my capacity as senator from the 44th, I would be delighted to vote no on all these bills, as I always have for 13 years.
But are you going
in
to?
my capacity as chairwoman of the Democratic caucus, I have been forced by Trump's reelection to realize what damage has been done. And unfortunately, the only way to get people to vote for your party that are not already with you and don't already agree with you is to get them to listen.
By throwing trans people.
They don't already agree with you.
By throwing trans people under the bus.
I think that's a very unfair characterization.
How would you characterize voting against trans people's constitutional rights?
How would you characterize it if John McCain had become president in 2008 instead of Barack Obama?
And listen, we're only partially into this murky water. It gets nastier. Not from State Senator Elena Paren either. Ron Show back after this. America One Radio Progressive Voices via TuneIn.
Broadcasting 5 days a week to make common sense common again. This is The Ron Show on America One Radio.
Also on Progressive Voices via TuneIn. If you're listening nationwide and you're going, why are you focusing for a second day in a row on a state issue in your home state of Georgia on trans legislation? Honestly, I think I've said this before. Sometimes I focus on Atlanta or Georgia goings-ons because I feel that they have ramifications on the national body politic as well. In particular, those of us who are trying to organize left of center to take on the Trump regime. Elon Musk, Donald Trump, Vladimir Putin. I mean, they're J.D. Vance. They're all Putin operatives. They're all on the same team. It's inarguable, right? But the reason I'm focusing on this conversation, this one specific conversation between a Democratic State Senator Elena Paren, and a trans mother who, I get it, you are passionate. You have a 9-year-old trans child. This hits so close to home. But the reason I focus on this conversation is because I believe that this conversation really got out of hand and really got hyperbolic. And, you know, our passions get the best of us sometimes, myself included. Hell, who else starts a podcast discussing politics for 45 minutes a day, 5 days a week, if you're not a little passionate? I get it. There are going to be times when my preferred political party, hell, there are a lot of times when my preferred political party lets me down, disappoints me, cuts corners, makes concessions that I'm not crazy about. It's not an all or nothing, zero sum, sort of scenario where we get everything that we want, much as that would be nice. We don't get everything we want at home. I don't get everything I want from my pets. It's not going to be 100%. It's never going to be 100% from anyone. You're never going to get purity. Ideological purity is a farce. And I get push to keep getting what you want. But I also understand that, and again, I'm a Bernie guy. I've seen a lot of us become disenfranchised in a binary situation, the only choice we can rally around and behind and within and with, to the point that it has cost us. It cost us in 2016. And I was no Hillary Clinton fanatic. She really screwed the pooch. The DNC really f***ed things up in 2016 and made zero attempts to mollify, to codify, to coalesce the steep divide between progressives and liberals, moderates, centrists, establishment Democrats. And I talked about this yesterday, the third way Democrats. Boy, they're going to try it again. Let's go back to the center. We need more mansions and cinemas. Do we? No, the answer is no. It doesn't win us elections. Unifying wins us elections. So yeah, I focus on this conversation with State Senator Elena Paren and the passionate, very passionate mother, Lena Kettler from Decatur, mother of a trans child. Because this conversation doesn't solve anything. It's so fruitless, honestly. And I'm not trying to say don't be activist, don't keep pushing. I'm saying understand that all we're doing right now is dividing from within a bill that, by the way, whether Senator Elena Paren was going to vote for or against, was going to pass. Would you rather have Governor Burt Jones in 2027 or Governor Elena Paren or Governor Jason Estevez? I like him too. Governor Stacey Abrams. Hey, Katie barred the door, right? Then you have to understand that no matter what State Senator Elena Paren was going to do with a vote, it was going to go anyway. And if she's positioning herself for a gubernatorial run and actually has the will of the vast majority, dirty little secret, some of them Democrats, on this one particular portion of a bill, okay, we agree to disagree. I hope you will reconsider, because the individual rights of people, even those incarcerated, do matter, and the Constitution says something about that. And then move on. Nope, that's not what Lena Cutler did. And State Senator Elena Paren's caught a lot of flack on social media. In fact, I want to listen. Marissa Pyle, who's been on this show before, she is All Voting is Local's Georgia Senior Democracy Defense Manager. She has been a political activist for many years in Atlanta and throughout the state of Georgia. She posted on February 28th, as a constituent of State Senator Elena Paren, I expect a detailed explanation of why she, in one of the bluest Georgia districts, will vote for anti-trans legislation and is willing to speak this way to the parent of a trans child. There is nothing that excuses this, and it is disqualifying. Ms. Pyle, did you also listen to the way Lena Cutler spoke to State Senator Elena Paren? There's nothing that excuses what you're about to hear. Anyway, back to Marissa's post. She said something about Democrats who vote like Republicans mean nothing. I don't think that necessarily means that Paren is voting like a Republican. I think she's voting like the majority of the country on that one particular issue. Marissa, this is her right. She says, I will never vote for Senator Paren again. As a non-binary constituent, as an advocate who works at the Capitol daily and has watched trans people and their loved ones bare their souls, begging for their lives, I expect her to be removed from Senate leadership. And by the way, Marissa writes, no, it isn't why Democrats lost. Democrats lost in large part because we ran a piss-poor field campaign in Georgia. Don't disagree. Which I can back up because I've run better ones and seen bad ones. I can back that up on the map. We lost because running away from our values and putting war criminals on the campaign trail is stupid. I think she's referring to Liz Cheney. Don't disagree. I'd argue that we lost because we didn't talk about trans people enough. I would say that where she's sort of right there is that we didn't respond to the smear campaign with the clip of Kamala Harris in the discussion about cosmetic surgery for trans prisoners, Charlemagne the God having the conversation on his radio show, The Breakfast Club, discussing that. There was no proper response for that, no answer to that. There should have been, absolutely. Marissa finishes her post, because above all, the right to live your life without fear or oppression is all of our fight, and you can tell that to others unless you are a shameless, spineless coward. I mean, tell me how that unites all of us who are anti-MAGA to fight the MAGA push that demonizes trans kids, trans people, parents of trans youth. How does that unite everybody? Let me get back to the conversation because I want you to hear how the tone really went. And it wasn't good. It wasn't good where we left, but it really went far south. Again, this is State Senator Elena Paren in a one-on-one Zoom call for like more than 20 minutes with Lena Cutler, trans activist, mom of a 9-year-old trans child who was on the call until I think Lena finally realized the tone was getting kind of nasty, but who was driving that and sent her child away?
In my capacity as chairwoman of the Democratic caucus, I have been forced by Trump's reelection to realize what damage has been done. And unfortunately, the only way to get people to vote for your party that are not already with you and don't already agree with you is to get them to listen.
By throwing trans people.
They don't already agree with you.
By throwing trans people under the bus.
I think that's a very unfair characterization.
How would you characterize voting against trans people's constitutional rights?
How would you characterize it if John McCain had become president in 2008 instead of Barack Obama?
Oh, I would be doing exactly what I'm doing right now. I would be speaking to my senators, and I would also be reminding my senators that trans people and their families vote, that there are a large number of trans and gender nonconforming students and individuals who vote in Decatur.
Okay.
And there are organizations gathering to either convince you to do your job and to protect children and people like mine, or we can make sure you don't have a job.
I believe I'm doing that incredibly well. What we are talking about is...
You're talking about incarcerated people. You're saying that incarcerated people do not have a right to gender-affirming health care.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying
that is what you said.
I do not think they have a right to surgeries. I don't think that.
Okay.
So, are you a doctor?
While they're in prison. I don't think that they have a right to that, no.
So, why is gender-affirming care not something that they have a right to? But if they had cancer, could they have a surgery to have the cancer removed?
They could, because it could cause their immediate death. Although I don't.
So, looking at the statistics on the life expectancy of people who are denied transgender, gender-affirming care over people who are given that care, their life expectancy changes greatly for the positive when given gender-affirming care. So why do incarcerated transgender people not deserve the same degree of care, and why are they not allowed to continue living?
Oh, they're well allowed to continue living.
So, but no, so I just want to understand. So your stance is that someone's right to gender-affirming health care stops once they've been incarcerated.
No, and I'll have the bill doesn't say that. And I will actually have an amendment to make clear that I don't support that position.
Yeah. No, you support pills, just not surgery. So you support some health care, just not all the health care.
Now, are you talking about, for example, like a breast implantation or mastectomy while someone's in prison?
I'm just talking about...
I don't know what surgery you're talking about other than that, or potentially...
So, okay. Then I'm actually really concerned that you're voting to deny a type of health care that you don't even know what it is.
Well, I have a general idea.
She's asking you.
So before you write a bill and vote for a bill that would deny that.
Okay,
but you're writing an amendment. No, I just think that you're here to spin something, and
I'm not.
I think that you're sitting here telling my 9-year-old that she's not worth it.
You're being extraordinarily disrespectful. Let me just tell you.
Oh, you need to leave the room. No, you are not going to sit here and tell me that I am being disrespectful. Do you understand that my 9-year-old doesn't know if she can go to school next week, and you've got a bill that you're pussyfooting around that will strip her of her identity?
No.
Elena, Paren, I want you to know right now that there is a group of people who are working to make sure that you are in the unemployment line. And I will do everything in my power to make sure that you can't walk down a street in Decatur without everybody knowing that you are a hypocrite, that you are a transphobe, and that you are a power-hungry white woman who trades on whatever people... I hope everybody in your office can hear me, because that's what you are. You are a power-hungry, cishet white woman who doesn't care whose necks you stand on so you can get whatever social clout. And don't worry, I'm recording this meeting, and I will be more than happy to share it with any outlet that I can reach. And if you think this is the... No.
Well, you're just yelling at me, so I can't.
Because you deserve to be yelled at. I am sick and tired of people in power like you telling me that my kid's not worth it.
Ma'am, I certainly have. If you would be quiet for a moment, I can.
Did you just tell me to be quiet?
Oh, God.
If you would stop talking for a moment, I could explain my position.
Let her
Are you going to stop lying and putting spin on things and gaslighting people?
I have not lied to you.
You are not being truthful.
I'm being truthful. I haven't voted for any one of these bills.
That's right.
I do believe, unfortunately, that this push to get people to be in what is regarded by the vast majority of the public as an extreme position on transgender folks before they
I'm sorry. Oh, okay. So when John Lewis was walking, no, you can't finish your fucking sentence.
Whoa!
When John Lewis walked across a bridge in Alabama, do you know what white people like you said? We're not ready.
I'm sorry, I don't know what you're talking about.
I am talking about white people in power who are too scared to risk their power to do the right thing. You are no better than the racists in the 60s. No.
This is it.
You are a coward.
Not being bullied by people.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I not give you enough deference? Oh, excuse me.
Do you hear
Yes,
this
you
woman?
are. You are sitting here being condescending. You are putting spin on it. You are not being truthful.
You're not. Listen, I guess you decided to have this call so that you could yell at me instead of engaging in any kind of conversation.
You're right. I did. Because I'm tired of women like you throwing anybody under the bus. You should be embarrassed. You are failing your constituents, and you are failing at your job as a leader. And I do not care that you want to keep talking over me. I do not care that you have anything else you have to say. You have been talking over me this entire call.
Lena's lack of self-awareness in this call is completely stunning. It's The Ron Show. America One Radio, Progressive Voices via TuneIn. Final few minutes of today's Ron Show. I'm spending a great deal of time on this conversation with State Senator Elena Paren, one of our constituents. Obviously passionate. Lena Cutler from Decatur, who I think, honest to God, while the clip that she shared on Instagram made the rounds and went viral and shocked folks, even kind of got me a little like, Senator Paren, Democrats, you got to get better at your messaging. I said that a lot yesterday, and I don't back away from that. Democrats do have to do a little bit better job. In fact, a lot better job at messaging. Covered that ad nauseum since election night, right? Or the day after the election. Yes, Democrats have to get better at messaging. And they have to better explain complex issues so that the majority of the country understands better why Democrats take positions that they do. But it is upon further review, having listened to the entire length and breadth of this conversation, a portion of which went viral, that I've decided Senator Elena Paren deserves credit for even sitting on this call as long as she did. I'd have hung up on her. Lena Cutler was very disrespectful. And when Senator Elena Paren, more than 15 minutes into the conversation, finally said so, well, it got even worse, right? I mean, here's where we left off before I had to take a quick little breather.
I'm tired of women like you throwing anybody under the bus. You should be embarrassed. You are failing your constituents, and you are failing at your job as a leader. And I do not care that you want to keep talking over me. I do not care that you have anything else you have to say. You have been talking over me this entire call.
No, Lena. It's been the exact opposite, actually.
I don't believe that's the case, ma'am. I don't believe that's the case. I don't believe that you've made any attempt to understand any word that I've said or my support of the transgender community.
I'm sorry, what part of I support the transgender community, except for when it might cost me some votes, did I not?
Any votes? It's not going to cost me any votes.
Yeah, you know what's going to cost you votes? Not supporting the transgender community.
No. What we need in order to stop these bills is for Democrats to be able to be heard by people that are not.
Oh, I'm sorry.
To be able to be heard by people that don't already agree with us.
So, what part How many of my rights, how many of my kids' rights do I need to give up before you get hurt enough?
Well, when you go to prison, you give up a lot of rights.
You give up, unfortunately, there are a lot of rights that our society decided a long time ago you give up when you're incarcerated.
I mean, those are cold, hard facts.
So
here's where this is just brutal, awful.
You're a piece of shit.
Really?
You're a bad person.
Wow.
All right, well,
I'm going to make sure as many people as possible hear this recording and they understand that Elena Paren is only interested in power.
Okay, so I'm as well making sure that enough people listen to this audio to understand that Elena Paren was a bigger person than most of us would have been in the face of that boorish bullshit behavior. I can't believe that a parent acted that. No, I can. I'm sorry. It's the culture we live in now. A parent sat down with their 9-year-old to teach them about civics. Listen, you get to sit down and with me and mommy, you get to have a conversation with your elected representative about something we're very passionate about. And all that child would have seen, thankfully, mom had the foresight to send the child away, or else the child would have seen mom go absolute bonkers on that state senator that couldn't get a word in edgewise, that kept getting what she was saying taken out of context, hyperbolized in her face, caricaturized. And while I, again, yesterday and today will quibble with what the Democratic Party has done when it comes to combating anti-trans rhetoric in the media and in legislation, upon further review, this is like an NFL official who goes to the replay booth and looks at the video and comes back and says, hey, we got that call wrong. I only got the social media part yesterday and covered that at length. And while I stand behind my premise that Democrats have to do a better job at crafting their messaging, State Senator Elena Paren among them, this Zoom conversation that she had with one parent, probably knowing, I'm guessing, that it was recorded, because usually when you get on a Zoom call, this call is being recorded. She knew. And of course, let me tell you something. You know how she knew? She knew because she didn't go in on her. She took all of that verbal abuse, knowing that it was being recorded. So I'm sure she expected to see it make the rounds. Maybe not just the small portion of it, and damn it if I didn't get caught up in that trap myself yesterday. But I'm making the good on it today and hoping that it makes the rounds. Not because I'm trying to kiss any Democrats' ass or trying to win favor with the state party. Anybody who's listened to this show for more than 2 years knows I go in on them quite plenty. No, the message for me today is, y'all, this doesn't solve anything. This rancid, caustic, toxic communication from within our own tent doesn't solve anything. And if you just take a breath, step back and review who you're talking to and what they've done, and even in this scenario, understand that it's a political calculation. The reason why Republicans are in power right now, and the reason why the Dobbs decision came down, why Roe v. Wade is no longer the law of the land, for example, is because they've been plotting, being politically calculating for decades. So if State Senator Elena Paren has a gubernatorial future or a gleam in her eye that that's what she wants to be, and she sees this one vote on cosmetic surgeries for trans prisoners as one way she can avoid a gotcha political ad when she's running for governor, then I'm going to grant her some grace on that. Because I'd rather she be governor than Burt Jones or Chris Carr or some other right-wing blowhard who ain't going to get anything solved for the trans community. Thank you for listening. The Ron Show airs 9 a.m., 5 p.m. weekdays on America One Radio, 11 p.m. Progressive Voices via TuneIn, and of course, wherever you podcast, once I podcasted. Show notes, as always, at RonShowATL.com. Back tomorrow. Have yourselves a great one.